Hi, I'm George Woodbury from College of the Sequoias in Visalia, California, and in this video we're going to go over how to graph linear functions using their intercepts. So the first function is f of x equals 3/2 x minus 6, and we can really think of it as if it's y equals 3/2 x minus 6, because I think that helps us to figure out the intercepts a little better. The x-intercepts, remember, are the places on a graph where y is equal to 0. So we put in 0 for y and solve for x. Y equals 3/2 x, 0 equals 3/2 x minus 6. Add 6 to both sides to get 6 equals 3/2 x. Oops. Clear the fractions by multiplying both sides of the equation by 2. That gives us 12 equals 3x. And when we divide by 3, we get x equals 4. So that is the point 4, 0. And I can put that on the graph on the x-axis at 4. Next, the y-intercept. When we're working with functions, this is a little easier in terms of which intercept is easier to find. When we put in 0 for x, we have y equals 3/2 times 0 minus 6. But 3/2 times 0 is just 0, so we're only left with y equals negative 6. When we have a function of this form, f of x equals mx plus b, that value of b, that gives us the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. And so here we knew right away it was going to be negative 6. So I put a point 6 down on the y-axis, and then we can just draw the graph that goes through those 2 points. Like that. Now, we're going to learn to graph by slope later, and what we would have started with is the y-intercept, which we could have read from the function. Then we're going to learn that the slope is 3/2. That means the graph moves up 3 and over 2. We would have had a second point there, and we would have drawn the line that went through them. Same graph. The next one's not in the same format, so when it's in this general form, we want to find the intercepts first. The equation is 2x plus 3y equals 9. We'll start again with the x-intercept, which is where y equals 0. And basically, when we put in 0 for y, that term is going to disappear because when we evaluate it for 0, some number times 0 is 0. Adding or subtracting 0 is no different. So the equation we're left with is 2x equals 9. Divide by 2, and we get x equals 9/2. So that's the point 9/2 comma 0. Actually, I don't think I did this back here. The y-intercept, if you had to write that as an ordered pair, that would be 0, negative 6. All right, back to this problem. The y-intercept is where the value of x is 0, so that term falls out, and we're just going to be left with 3y equals 9. And when we divide by 3, we get y equals 3, 0, comma 3. Putting these 2 points on the graph, 9/2, if you think of it as a decimal, that's 4.5. If you think of it as a mixed number, it's 4.5. That's 4.5 of the way over to 5. So in between 4 and 5, about there. The y-intercept is at 3 on the y-axis, and then you just draw the straight line that passes through those 2 points. This one's a little different, 3x minus 4y equals 0. When it's in the general form, ax plus by equals c, but that number c is 0, we're only going to find one intercept. And that means that we're going to have to come up with another point somehow, and I'll show you how to do that. Pretend we didn't notice it, and so we start by finding the x-intercept, which is where y equals 0. That gives us the equation 3x equals 0, divide by 3, and we get x equals 0. That's the point 0, 0. I'm going to do the y-intercept right underneath that, where x is 0. When we substitute 0 for x, we're left with negative 4y equals 0, and when we divide by negative 4, we get y equals 0. So I get the same exact point twice, 0, 0, the origin. So I need another point, and you want to be strategic about this. So to show you the benefit of that, I'm going to show you what happens when you're not strategic. So I may want to try x equals 1. So second point, and I'm going to try x equals 1. So I put in 1 for x. 3 times 1 minus 4y equals 0. 3 times 1 is 3. I subtract the 3 to the right-hand side, and then I divide by -4, and I get y equals 3/4. So the ordered pair 1 3/4 would be on here, but it's going to be tough for me to graph this accurately using the fractions. So what I can do is I can solve this literal equation for y, and that's going to give me some ideas about what kind of values I can use for x. So I'm first going to subtract over the 3x. -4y equals -3x. I'm going to divide both sides by -4, and that gives me y equals positive 3/4 x. So I'm going to multiply 3/4 by whatever value I pick for x. It makes sense to pick a value of x that's a multiple of 4. And I'm going to try 4. If I use x equals 4, that gives me y equals 3/4 times 4, which is 3. So that's the point 3, 4. And that is a lot easier to put on the graph. Connect the dots, etc. The point 1 3/4 would have been right there. I go through it anyway. It's just going to be harder for me to get that on the graph accurately. And so instead, switching it to slope-intercept form by solving for y, it gives me an idea of what values I can substitute for x. I could have substituted 8 for x, which would have got me, if I substituted, oh, I put that in the wrong place, didn't I? It should have been 4, 3, not 3, 4. All right, let's figure out what to do when you make a mistake. Not intentional, but definitely something I can fix. And I'm going to show you how I figured out I was in trouble. When I went to put on, I knew that if I substituted 8, I would have got 6 for y, and 8, 6 wasn't lining up with my line. So that third checkpoint's actually a really good idea. Back to where we were, 0, 0, and then the next point was 4, 3. And like I said, if I substitute 8, I would have got 6. Something like this. And so there, when I substituted 1 for x, I would have got 3/4. So that's where that point was. But that 8, 6 is what told me I got trouble. I just wrote those numbers down in the wrong order. Do be careful. We're going to finish with a couple of special lines. F of x equals 2. This is a line just like y equals 2. And that is a horizontal line. And its intercept is going to be at 0, 2. So we put a point on the y-axis at 2. And we draw the line that's horizontal that goes through that. When the equation is of the form x equals some number, that is a vertical line. Go to some place where you know that x is equal to 5, like there, and then draw the vertical line that passes through that. All right, so what we went over here, and I'll put that back on the screen in a moment. We went over graphing a linear function that's in mx plus b form by finding its intercepts. We graphed a line in general form, ax plus by equals c, by finding its intercepts. We learned what to do when both intercepts are the origin and how to figure out that you've made a mistake. And then we finish with horizontal and vertical lines. All right, I'll see you in the next video.